When you're trying to gain or develop a new skill, there's a lot of things you don't know. So grab a coffee or some chocolate milk and let's talk about the 10 things I wish I knew before becoming a filmmaker. Listen, come closer. It does not matter what editing software you use. It just doesn't. Sony Vegas, Final Cut, Premiere Pro, DaVinci, doesn't matter. Now, before you smash your keyboard, of course there's exception to this. If you're a colorist, for example, or you want to become one, obviously DaVinci is your friend. But I'm talking about becoming a filmmaker, being a video editor. Doesn't matter what you use. Now, if you own a Mac, obviously people will assume you are editing in Final Cut, but not everybody that owns a Mac does that. But this is just the first simple example I wanted you to know of a thing I wish I knew. Grass is not greener on the other side. Keep using what you're using and you'll get better at it. Oh, this one I really wish I knew from the start. The difference between a crop sensor and a full frame, the same one I have on my A7S III. Now, by any means am I dismissing crop sensor? Not at all. I started my professional career on a GH4 and I love the GH series and I don't think I'm gonna sell my GH5 anytime soon. So there's obviously pros and cons, but I wish I knew this earlier before investing so much money in cameras, adapters, and lenses. You know, when you do this, you kind of have to become loyal to one camera brand. You know, it's kind of like supporting a sports team. If you switch, you're gonna lose a lot of friends. Yes, gear matters, but lack of gear may make you more creative. You know, when people say gear doesn't matter, they don't mean it doesn't matter. They just mean create something with what you have right now. You'll realize later what you need for what you want to do. So when I say gear matters, I mean that I wish I was a bit more intentional with the equipment I was using, a bit more geeky and technical. I wish I would have researched from the beginning what does it mean that a camera has a high frame rate or a lens has a wide aperture. And since I didn't do a lot of research or go to film school, I learned a lot of these things by doing. Oh, this is a fun one. Color correction and color grading are two different things. So what you see right now, this is color correction that started from here. Now, let's go back for a second. After you do this color correction, then you can do a color grade that may or may not look like this. The point is, the color grade is a lot more subjective. It's a lot more artistically, if you may. Why is it so sunny all of a sudden? And to be honest, if you talk to clients, they're obviously not gonna know what's the difference. But if you talk to other filmmakers and if you have some sort of project that you work together on, you better know what's the difference between correction and grading. And I didn't like admitting this at first, but sound is more important than video. A lot of people on YouTube will forgive you if your video is not in 4K, but most of them will click away if your sound sucks. Which reminds me, sorry for the echo if you hear any, I moved to a new place that it's barely furnished. But sound is so important because sound tells a story, sound amplifies the visual. So basically sound sends emotion, or better yet, amplifies it. Whatever the creator of the thing you're watching meant, that's amplified by sound. And here, I don't mean just choosing the right song for the video, I also mean don't disregard sound effects. You'll be buying a lot of equipment all the time. I wish somebody told me from the beginning that this whole buying equipment doesn't stop ever at all. And when I said earlier that gear matters, I didn't mean to always buy the latest things. So as soon as you realize that for the years to come, you'll keep buying equipment more and more, it's good to know early and be intentional in the kind of videography or photography you want to get into. This way, you'll know what to prioritize. I'll give you a short example. My next lens on the wish list is a 16-35, and that's because I would like to have a bit of a wider perspective when I'm filming. Now, if I would want to focus more on portrait photography, I would probably look into an 85mm or even more. My only advice when it comes to buying gear is realize where's the thin line between needing something and wanting something. A lot of things are nice to have. Some of the things you kind of need to make money with. You'll make a lot of bad videos, and that's fine. Just don't kill yourself over it. That's how progress works, and I'll be honest with you, I really wish I wasn't so hard on myself in the beginning because, you know, like many of you watching maybe, I would compare my videos with Peter McKinnon, Chris Howe, Manny Hapoya, you name them. And this kind of mentality can easily backfire with the things we talked before about buying equipment all the time. If you think your skills are not good enough, you might argue to yourself that, you know, it's because I don't have a full frame camera. It's because I don't have a Godox light with an Aputure dome or whatever. Oh, I wish I could do 120 frames a second like Daniel Schiffer, you know. And you know, I want to touch one more thing while we're here, because coming to the conclusion that one of your first videos is bad can also be because of someone else, because of the feedback you received from someone that doesn't have anything to do with video making. So listen to feedback, but be careful to which feedback you really listen to. Get it? And actually, this brings me to my next point. Ask for feedback from more types of people, different ages, nationalities, industries. Try to spread your network out. You gotta understand, people have different perspectives. You know, some people cry at almost every movie, some never did. I've listened to a lot of established YouTubers, and so many of them have said, a lot of times the videos that I think will do bad and the ones that I put less time in do great. Some of the videos that I'm so intentional with and I really put a lot of time and dedication don't do even close to my expectations. And that of course can be because of the YouTube algorithm and not being recommended enough. But people have different tastes than you may think. Subjectivity is a real thing. So before you make that final cut and render your video, make sure you send it to a lot of kinds of people and ask for their opinion. You don't need to apply every single feedback you receive, but more often than not, it's valuable. Look, I don't care if you're just starting out or you've been doing this for a while and you kind of know what you're doing. I really think you should do free work. And I obviously don't mean just work for free all the time, but work for free intentionally. If you're trying to build some sort of specific kind of portfolio, do free work for those kind of businesses or clients so that later on when you're ready to ask for the big bucks, you'll have something to show for. A lot of times these kind of projects can create a network for you that you may not have thought possible at first. When I offer my free services for a company, I tell them from the beginning to please don't say this was made for free, because if they end up recommending me to someone else, then I want to get paid for it. And I'll tell you from my own experience, this has happened before. I worked for free for a company, word of mouth happened, and then I got a project, a paid project. So even though I've been doing free work for a while now, I wish someone told me earlier that that's the way to go in building a faster, better portfolio. You know, there's a lot of other things I could share with you guys from my experience in the last years as a filmmaker. But the last thing I want to leave you guys here today with is that nothing is as scary as it first seems. You know, grading a log profile on your camera or After Effects animations or whatever it may be. From my experience, you know, once you sit down and you put your mind to it, it doesn't really seem so complicated as you first thought. A lot of times I found myself doing it and I'm like, huh. I'll be honest with you, at first I was scared of, for example, After Effects. I wouldn't even open that software. I thought it's just some magic that only people that went to film school can do. And obviously I don't even know half of the software by now, but I'm pretty confident I can do a lot of things in After Effects. And you know, sometimes I still think like that, and I guess that's fine as long as you remind yourself that anything can be learned. So when I look at people today that only use, for example, red cameras, I'm like, wow, those people really know what they're doing. And I guess they do, but I could also. And remember, it's fine if all of a sudden you realize there's one thing in your process you were doing wrong for the last year. Better late than never, right? And I hope that this last advice motivates or inspires you to keep trying new things, because that's how you become better. That's how progress happens. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of other things I could share with you right now, but these are just 10 things I would write on a piece of paper, travel back in time and give to my younger self. So I really hope you got some value out of today's video, but there's one more thing I hope. I hope you'll subscribe and like this video. See you next week.